like if I leave with one message is that the magnitude of the energy problem that lies ahead is absolutely enormous. It's just something we should not be cavalier about. We should be careful with digital superintelligence. Digital superintelligence may be the biggest existential risk that humanity has ever faced.
At the end of July, CEO of PG&E Patti Poppe conducted an interview with Techno King Elon Musk. This will be my first time watching any part of this interview. It will be linked below if you want it in full, but I'm only going to give you the special tidbits along with some of my take on a few of these issues. Without further ado, let's get to it.
So exciting. Hello, I'm Patti Poppe. I'm the CEO of PG&E, and so happy. Yeah, thank you. So happy to have you all here. One person likes me in the room. That's nice. And so we've underpinned our culture change with something we call breakthrough thinking. And it's through breakthrough thinking, which is where we allow ourselves to consider what's true today as a file. What's true today is just our current thinking. But imagine a future that's different, that isn't true yet today. But we can stand for that future and work like hell to cause it to be true.
Amen. Methinks I'm going to like this interview.
Imagine a future that's different, that isn't true yet today. But we can stand for that future and work like hell to cause it to be true.
Woo! So nice, your boy had to hear it twice.
But this is a poem for all the dreamers, all the innovators, all you doers out there who have big dreams that aren't true today, but you're going to cause them to be true in the future. Hear these words from Joseph Strauss. At last the mighty task is done, resplendent in the western sun. The bridge looms mountain high, its titan piers grip ocean floor, its great steel arms link shore with shore, its towers pierce the sky. Next part is for all of you. Here's what he says. Launched midst 1,000 hopes and fears, damned by 1,000 hostile sneers, yet ne'er the course was stayed, but ask of those who met the foe, who stood alone when faith was low, and then ask them the price they paid. We are all standing in the face of resistance. We stand in the face of the sneers of people who don't believe it's true, won't believe it's true, can't imagine a future that we're describing here today. But we are standing with you, and I know that because each of you has a dream that can help us bridge from today to the future, and we're so glad you're here.
You're motherfucking right. Even back when they were building the Golden Gate Bridge, you got haters, naysayers. It's not enough for them to jeer behind your back. They're sneering in your face. Do not let that dissuade you. My goal is to upload a long-form video on YouTube every day for 1 year. Regardless of monetization, regardless of how many subscribers, if only one person watches this and gains some knowledge about the future that I expect to see, the opportunity that presents itself, this once-in-a-generational opportunity in this company that I believe will be the most valuable company of my lifetime, then I have succeeded. Whether I continue to do this past 1 year, well, I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Joining us virtually today, please welcome Elon Musk, Chief Executive Officer, Tesla.
Techno King.
Elon, I want to start, first of all, has anyone ever shared with you that you're like the best combination of Henry Ford and Thomas Edison all wrapped up in one? Has that analogy been made before?
I'm not sure that exact analogy's been made. It certainly would be flattering.
Well, that's how I feel today. That's how I feel today, Elon. We're talking a lot today, Elon, about breakthrough thinking and what it means to stand for something that you believe is possible in the face of potentially resistance. Maybe people don't think that it's possible. And I'm curious, Elon, if you can think back, when was the first time you had a thought that something was possible that no one else believed?
Well, I'm not sure that no one else believed, but because I mean, it's usually somebody that believes something, however preposterous that might be. But let's say when most people didn't believe it or didn't think it was true. Obviously, I think electric vehicles would certainly put into that category. I wouldn't say that nobody, if we're looking at, say, electric vehicles and reusable rockets, I think most people did not think that would happen. A few did, obviously, but most people did not. For me, the technology, it seemed quite obvious from a physics standpoint. If you look at, say, an internal combustion engine car, it needs an electric motor and a battery just to start. So it's an incredibly complicated device, a combustion engine car. And the only reason battery cars did not take off was range. So as soon as you have something with high energy density like lithium ion, and you have now a range that matches people's needs, then there's really no need for the complexity of an electric car, of a gasoline car. So, like a lot of people think that the origins of like my interest in electric vehicles would be environmental, but actually my concern was simply that we will run out of hydrocarbons to mine and burn. And so we need something to continue civilization, independent of any environmental issues. And we are moving at this point, I think, quite rapidly towards an electric future and towards a sustainable future. So, I'm fairly encouraged on that front. I think it's going to happen. It is happening. We can always make it go faster. That would be good. But I'm not actually in favor of sort of vilifying the oil and gas industry. We still obviously need that in order for civilization to function, but we should be transitioning to sustainable energy as quickly as we reasonably can. But I think, like I said, without vilifying oil and gas.
100% correct. The amount of energy that we're going to need as we progress throughout this decade and into the future, all forms of energy are going to be needed.
I'd love to know where you think the grid is going, and where, obviously you've made some really big predictions about the 3 times increase in energy demand as a result of electrification. What do you think the role of the grid is in that future?
Yeah, I mean, to be precise, if one looks at total energy consumption globally, in very rough terms, only about a third of it is electricity, and then a third of it is burned for transport with aircraft, boats, cars, and stuff, and then a third of it is for heating. So even if you assume that electricity demand is static, in order to transition to a sustainable energy future where everything is electric and sustainably electric, we need a tripling of electrical output. So you can mark my words here, electrical output will triple. Now, as you alluded to, because of the way that the grid has been constructed to match peak demand, there is actually excess capacity if you run the plants sort of 24 hours a day. I'm not sure, it might be as much as a 2x gain, but it's at least 50 to 100% increase in total energy output if power plants are run 24/7 versus just matching the consumer demand. And obviously the reason for that is there hasn't been really, in most cases, a way to buffer energy. And what stationary battery packs like the Tesla Megapack enable is to buffer the energy. So you can essentially run the power plant at its max power output, and fill up the battery pack and then use it as needed. So this effectively gives far greater output potential for the existing electricity generation infrastructure.
The grid. What do you think the full extent of distributed storage, and particularly with the idea of bidirectional charging vehicles? Elon, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I think there's a buffering that is needed, obviously, at the power plant level, or sort of heavy industry utility level, which is the Megapack. And then there's also energy buffering that is useful at the endpoint, at the consumer's home or the individual business. I think we're basically going to need to tackle this problem. If I leave with one message, is that the magnitude of the energy problem that lies ahead is absolutely enormous. It's good news for the utility industry. It's great news. People are going to use a lot of electricity, like a lot.
PG&E likes the sound of that, Elon. We like that.
Yeah, so this is for sure going to happen. So but in order to satisfy the electricity need of a fully electric transport economy and electric heating, it's you've got to triple output. And that's just in America. I mean, places that are industrializing like India, I think it probably is a 10x output. So in fact, a friend of mine was talking to me about like some of these sort of fundamental ratios or metrics that are interesting to think about. One of them is total amount of energy per person. And you can include thermal energy and electrical energy, and how that has scaled over time is incredible. So, if you said like, before the steam engine, you basically just had energy per person would be like, what can you burn with like firewood or a horse or an ox? So this is obviously not much. Now the energy, if you say like total sort of human civilization created energy is gigantic compared to the past. And that number per person is going to increase, I think, dramatically over time. This friend of mine that I referred to thinks that we may end up at some point. Well, if the trend continues, that it might end up being like a terawatt per person. Now, I'm not showing it. Like terawatt per person is a lot, obviously.
That'd be a lot.
So big asterisk around if trend continues.
Yeah.
But energy per person over time, it looks like a wall at the Industrial Revolution.
Yes.
And same can be said for compute per person over time, digital versus biological compute. These are really interesting metrics. So basically, what I'm saying is we need to tackle this from all angles. So that's power wall locally, some amount of local solar power. It just helps a little bit so that one doesn't have to expand as many substations and build as many transmission lines, which drive people crazy in like suburban neighborhoods.
The sun stops shining when the sun stops shining, and so we need a resource, and that's where Elkhorn and the mega packs and the residential power packs can play a role, as well as EVs can help to bring down that peak, and not just as we add 3 times more energy usage, not just add to the peak, but in fact, if we can add to the peak less and fill the belly of the duck, as we say, more, then we can get a more fully utilized energy grid, which could in fact be more affordable for customers. They actually could spend less on energy. What is your point of view about that?
Well,
you can disagree if you want, Elon.
yeah, no, I think there will be price pressure on electricity because just when you increase demand, there tends to be pricing pressure on something, on wherever it may be. But the good news is with batteries at scale, either like the mega pack, which is sort of where you do sort of gigawatt hour class battery packs, or the summation of power walls at users' homes where the power walls all communicate. You can have 10,000 power walls all operating together to buffer the power. This is going to be extremely helpful in increasing total electricity availability, because you just have to buffer it, especially with renewables. Obviously, with wind and solar, the buffering is essential. I mean, if you like to say like SpaceX and Starlink satellite constellation, which is a majority of all satellites currently in operation, they're all solar battery powered, and they're in low Earth orbit, so they go through Earth's shadow. You can think of Earth as just really a big satellite, My prediction is that long-term, most electricity will be generated with solar and with a solar battery combination. The solar energy is just absurdly gigantic, with a gigawatt of solar incidence per square kilometer, roughly. Or thought of another way, when you do all the math, it sort of roughly works out to like a gigawatt hour per day, if I recall correctly, per square kilometer. It's a lot.
Yeah. Yes, we should react. Yes.
Lot.
That's a lot.
I mean, it would be a frozen ice ball at roughly 3 degrees Kelvin if it wasn't for the sun. It would be pitch dark
Yes.
and cold as hell.
Fortunately, it's not. Yes, right.
Fortunately, we have the sun, which is throwing off absurd amounts of energy, and it's zero maintenance, and it just shows up every day. It's amazing.
Yes.
People
Yes.
always ask about, like, what do you think about fusion? I'm like, we have a fusion reactor in the sky that just shows up every day.
Yeah.
Why do you need to build one on the ground? That doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. So
Like,
with that
fusion is
thought,
definitely solvable, but it's pointless.
but what do you think the role of the grid and a utility like PG&E is in causing that lowest cost societal transition to a decarbonized economy? What do you think our role is, and what advice do you have for us?
Well, I think generally leaning in the direction of solar and wind combined with battery storage, because of the intermittent nature of solar and wind, is generally the right approach. And I think a lot of that is happening. I mean, we see the growth of renewables in the United States and actually in most places in the world, including China, is very high. So if that trend continues, and it probably will, then I think we're headed for a good place. I would just say, whatever your demand predictions are for electricity, I suspect they are too low.
Yeah.
So I recommend.
I'm taking a note,
anticipating
Elon.
Much higher demand.
Yeah. So, Elon, I know you kind of have a love-hate relationship with artificial intelligence. On one hand, you love it. On one hand,
Well,
it's scary. What role do you think AI has in this grid of the future and the energy system of the future?
Yeah, I would say just I'm worried about AI as, it's just that if you've got some sort of digital superintelligence, things can go wrong, potentially. It's just something we should not be cavalier about. We should be careful with digital superintelligence. Digital superintelligence may be the biggest existential risk that humanity has ever faced. So I think we need to be very careful with it, and I think we should have regulatory oversight, because it is a potential danger to the public, and whenever we have something that is a potential danger to the public, we have regulatory oversight.
We have regulations for many things. FDA, NHTSA, 3M, but none more important than the eventual birth of artificial general intelligence. Internet, cybersecurity, caught our government with its pants down. Let's learn from that ignorance and get out in front of this, because it could be catastrophic. Singularity is nothing to
So on the plus side, I mean, AI has the potential for creating a society of abundance. So in the positive AI scenario, there will be no shortages of goods and services. There will be almost free. Yeah, so it's a strange way to think about it, but I recommend reading Ian Banks' The Culture books. That's probably the best future envisioning of AI that I've seen.
Oh, good.
But yeah, digital superintelligence combined with robotics will essentially make goods and services close to free.
What I'm curious about is, from your perspective, more broadly, what is working with other utilities, what is not working, and what could we do collectively to essentially facilitate greater collaboration like we see here?
Well, I think just generally recalibrating expectations for electricity demand is very important. You know, if you have a fairly static electricity demand, which has been the case in the U.S. for a while, it hasn't changed a lot. Then having projects take a long time is okay in that scenario. But in a rapidly changing scenario where electricity demand is increasing, we have to move much faster. So we need to bring the timescale of projects in sooner and have a high sense of urgency. So that's it. My biggest concern is that there's insufficient urgency, and people just don't understand how much electricity demand there will be, and it's really going, like I said, it's going to be 3 times what it currently is.
Elon,
It has to be.
that is great advice. I mean, I think we are definitely taking a note here. I'm going to be the last person to doubt your predictions of the future. So, Elon, I'm going to fish for a compliment here. Anything PG&E is doing good? Anything we're doing well with you, Elon?
Well, I think we've had a number of really productive projects. You know, the big battery installations have been great. And just generally the dialogue has been really good between our teams. And I appreciate the help with the Powerwall, with the backup switch, which is really helpful for, you know, if customers do get caught in a wildfire or for some reason electricity is down, then we need to cut off the home power from the grid, so it's contained, so that the Powerwall can power the house. So it's actually important from a safety standpoint and everything, and I appreciate your help in enabling that. That's a big deal for people in need.
Yeah, thank you, Elon. Thank you for finding something good to say. I appreciate that. You had to dig deep. Okay, we're going to do a speed round now. We're going to do a speed round. Something overrated.
What's overrated? I mean, some of these things that are overrated are obvious at this point, like, you know, Web 3.0 or whatever, and NFTs, but everybody knows that at this point.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Me, I'm overrated.
Nice, nice. Okay, so tell us something that you're excited about for the future. What's something that excites you for the future, Elon?
Well, I think it'd be very exciting to see humanity back on the moon and to have the first people on Mars. And, you know, for us to be a space-faring civilization, I think that would be a very exciting future.
Space, the final frontier.
You know, I think we are moving towards sustainability, and I think that'll make everyone a lot more comfortable as we move to a sustainable energy future. Side of AI, I think there will be some amazing things that AI creates for us.
I often think that if Thomas Edison came and took a walk with me today, he'd recognize most of the stuff, but not for long. And in no short order because of you, Elon, and your vision and your commitment to a future that was not true when you stated it the first time. You had a lot of doubters. We talked a little bit before you joined about the Golden Gate Bridge and how there were a lot of doubters about the Golden Gate Bridge, and now we can't imagine a world without it. I can't imagine a world without Tesla, and I'm so thankful for your leadership. We're thankful for your partnership. We at PG&E are dedicated to being with you, and we're going to do our darndest to keep pace with you, and we're always going to listen closely when you give us good advice. So thank you so much for being with us. Please, everybody, give it up for Elon Musk.
Thank you very much.
In conclusion, big fan of Patti Poppe's energy, no pun intended. Speaking of energy, we need more. The world's electricity demand will need to triple in the coming years. And once we meet that goal of it tripling, we need to think it'll triple once again. Remember, the full interview is linked below. I hope you enjoyed this supercut. Be easy. Peace.